Have you heard of the divinity and tether argument? No? Well, consider yourself lucky then. The divinity tether argument is the statement of divinity and tether do not stack, which is true. However, the problem with that statement is that it's not the point of the combination, and despite that, all you ever hear from a portion of the community is, these don't stack, you're wasting your time, and you're throwing damage. The actual purpose of this combination is to utilize the second ability of Div and the debuff of Tether. The second ability I'm referring to is the Divinity Cage, which allows you to get guaranteed precision hits no matter what, as long as you hit that cage. Now, on some bosses that are gigantic, such as Oryx, whose chest is the size of California, that cage is not needed, obviously. But if you look at a mobile boss such as Rulk, or Iryut, or even just a subjugator who took too much Adderall and is now spazzing out all over the arena, then that div cage becomes a valuable tool, while Tether continues to do the job of giving a 30% debuff to an enemy or a boss. Despite that, to this day, you will still hear people yell at you for using this combination. Now, what on earth does this have to do with Golden Gun and Wall of Radiance, you ask? It's the same damn thing, and to be honest, I am already getting sick and tired of it. So let's talk about it. The loud part of the community will yell and throw tomatoes at you if you dare pop a Golden Gun in the same continent as a Well of Radiance. But why? What is the problem? Well, let's break it down. Due to how Well of Radiance works and interacts with certain buffs, in this case, Radiance specifically, it overrides other buffs while being inside of the well. Now, on the other side, the way Golden Gun works as a super is it will benefit from certain buffs. In this case, again, we're talking about Radiant, and you might already see where I'm going with this. So if you use Golden Gun inside of a Will of Radiance, which overrides the Radiant buff, then you will do less damage with your Golden Gun, including via Celestial Nighthawk. So then, Sneak, what is the problem? People are telling you to not do less damage. Well, the problem is, people don't know how the interaction actually works and why you can, and in certain situations, should utilize that Will of Radiance to your advantage and not a disadvantage. Before you rub up those tomatoes, let me explain with a few examples first. First, let's start with a basic clip of an example of firing your Golden Gun at a boss. We're going to use Divinity in these examples just to cover all bases and not have Billy Bob 420x69 come into the comments and say, well, actually, you hit 2/3 of the right ear of the boss, and that's why you got that damage, streamer. So, here is the first example clip. This will be Golden Gun fired on its own while having the Radiant buff active. Let's take a look. Alright, here we go. DPS. Popping Goldie. I am Radiant. I hit him for 692k. That is what I hit with no Well of Radiance. Alright, be right back. So Golden Gun and Radiant came out to 692k. Alright, fair enough. Now let's do Golden Gun with a Well of Radiance. And shooting it in Well. Here you go. That is the difference. 553k as opposed to 692k on the other one. While being in Well, you get 553k. That is clearly less than before because, again, Well of Radiance takes away the Radiant buff. I don't know why they name these things so similar, but you know what? Whatever. The point is you do less, right? Okay, moving on. So that's the problem, right? That's what people are angry about. Well, not exactly. There's a good chunk of the community that thinks that even if you just activate your Golden Gun in a well, you will automatically reduce your damage, which is just factually not true. Here lies the actual problem. Similar to the Div and Tether argument, some people don't realize two things. Number one, you can activate your Golden Gun inside of a well. It does absolutely nothing to reduce your damage unless you stay and fire in that well. And number two, you can actually utilize the well to your advantage. Now, how is that? You simply just walk out of the well. That's it. I'll explain more in a second, but here's the clip. Note that I'm going to pop it in the well, but then I'm going to step out of the well, which gives me Radiant. And, wow, look at that. I got the exact same number. It's almost like you can pop Golden Gun in well as long as you just step out, which will then give you Radiant. As you can see, I popped Golden Gun in the well, then I walked out of the well, and I did the exact same damage that I hit in the original clip where it was just Goldie and Radiant. So why did it work that way? This is because, with the Final Shape patch, Bungie changed the Well of Radiance, and now it will give you the Radiant buff anytime that you leave the well radius. Now, that we've left well, we are free to fire Golden Gun and do maximum damage. Needless to say, that is a substantial difference and something people can easily miss, which is totally fine. My hope is that people would just understand over time that there is a difference in the two examples and not immediately jump to trying to German suplex somebody who activates a Goldie inside of a well. There's one more thing I do want to mention, as some people might have a question for this. At this point, some people might say, why aim a step in the well to begin with? You can just make yourself radiant through your solar knives, right? And that is true, but the answer to this question is Prismatic. With the release of Transcendence and Prismatic, hunters have been given a crazy kit to work with. One of these includes a fragment called Facet of Command, which in simple terms automatically reloads your weapon when freezing an enemy. This allows you to have an additional free reload animation aside from your dodge on demand at any time that you want. Oh, and did I mention also that being in Transcendence gives you a 5% damage buff to your weapons? Yeah, that's nice too. So the easiest, and arguably the best way to utilize this is to use the Stasis Shurikens in your melee slot, which would mean you lose your Solar Knives that would normally make you radiant for a boss damage phase. But as I've mentioned earlier, if there is a Well of Radiance, you can simply pop your Goldie inside of that well, then leave that well, which will automatically then give you Radiance, and from that point on, you can use the most busted weapon and super combo in the game that we currently have with Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun, followed by Still Hunt spam. And at this point, you can just utilize Still Hunt to obliterate any boss in the game, and anytime you actually need to manual reload, you can use one of these two ways to just reload animation instead. Number one being double shurikens to freeze an enemy, which will give you your mag back, and then if you need it, your dodge to also refill your mag to just continue spamming your Golden Gun Still Hunt shot. And here's a quick example clip of that. Got it.
And then now it's just staying up permanently? Hello? 5 burst, by the way. Point that out.
Nice. I still had one extra shot to put out too. Quick side note to the clip, if anybody's curious, I will be putting out a video going over my Prismatic Hunter DPS build and showing all of the fragments, mods, etc. So stay tuned for that. But for this video, all sarcasm and jokes aside, in conclusion, I hope some people learned something new today, and I did a decent job at explaining the difference between activating your Golden Gun in a well and shooting your Golden Gun in a well. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing today. It does help the channel grow and is much appreciated. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can leave a like and or comment below as well. If you don't know what to comment, you could leave Radiant as the comment. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.